Tessa. Tessa, you are not audible. You are muted.
Well, that is really sad. I've been rambling the whole time and we've just been sitting here. I
Yeah,
didn't
like,
see the chat. I'm so sorry.
yeah, it's okay.
Are you all able to unmute? I mean, obviously you were,
Yeah.
but okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Well,
Uh,
that's lame, but that's okay. We can move
I thought you were on the phone or something like that.
on. That's my bad. I'm so sorry because you didn't hear me right. So I wasn't like, hey, Kevin, how are you? Because I
No,
was muted.
Nothing.
yeah, exactly. I was looking at your sheet with all of the blog posts and everything, but I couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, that's my bad. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, y'all. Okay, so I'll catch y'all up. Thank you for calling that out. 10 minutes in, and I'm just rambling over here. I don't even know if the recording will catch it because that's not how it works. Long story short, I right now I'm doing some research for a client of mine that is in the ML ops space. At least that's the use case that we're validating. So we're very early on. They're actually in pre-seed, so they're sort of pre even going live with their product. They originally started in blockchain, thinking that they wanted to solve what their big mission is through the blockchain kind of network. And their big mission is to actually have all the different devices near us serving a purpose because they all have open GPU, they have open space, right? We only use our phone when it's in our hand. We only use our iPad when it's in, like, I have a laptop, a phone, and an iPad, and the computer I'm on right now literally all in front of me. And so it's like, how do we harness the power of all these devices? And that's our big mission. So the tool that they actually have built today obviously is much limited from that, right? So what use case can it serve today? And they're actually focusing in on robotics with physical reproducibility, and where that can take them in the future. And then as well as ML ops, but mostly on-prem. And so right now, what I've been doing while I've been talking to myself, apparently, is doing research around sort of on-premise ML ops deployments. What does that look like? And honestly, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get to understand is, like, I want to know that entire developer workflow as someone who is inside of this ecosystem and use case. So I think that's mostly caught up. Otherwise, I was just rambling. How is everyone today? Yeah, no, so the blockchain came from the fact that they originally thought that was with the open infrastructure, that was how they would build out the use case that would get them to being able to utilize the power that exists in our devices around us. So it wasn't like it was specific to that necessarily the ecosystem. It was more about a decision they thought they could do it there. Does that make sense? Yeah. But totally, I agree. Plus, when you add robotics in there, right? Like AI and ML, and which I'll tell you right now is already really fun to learn about. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to nerd out on robotics next, which is like a whole nother, I don't know. It's cool. Like, as an engineer, like in a software side, I feel like robotics is like so far from what we get to do, even though there's still software there, you know? All right. Actually, Kevin, this is for the client that you did the little video snippet for, actually.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Which didn't have sound, I don't think, in it, did it?
No, I think she needed that for some sort of presentation because I just cut off some pieces of the video into a very small recap. So I'm guessing that was the goal for that. Or maybe put audio on the top of that.
Yeah, we used it at the booth, actually, at ML Ops World. So she could speak how she wanted to, and then she could, sort of show it behind the scenes. So yeah, it was cool. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my little sheet. Please jump in and like engage and speak and say things. This is very open. I'm just gonna ramble. Hopefully you can hear me now. And if you want to engage, please do. So catching up, I had similar to Kevin, I've got really great people in my ecosystem that I tap to come in and do various things. So I had someone who's in the ML ops space actually pull together the spreadsheet. I don't know if I had shared that yet. And so I'm going through the spreadsheet of what they found and just trying to basically familiarize myself with the ecosystem more after ML ops world. Developer communities, that's where it's at. Is anyone hanging out in this ecosystem currently if they want to talk about it? Hmm. Let's look at this robot framework community. Yes, please. What is this? Oh my gosh, this is cool. I'm looking for discussions, by the way, and they do not exist. I'm looking to see where people are engaging with this ecosystem. Ooh, it's a forum.
So, Tisa, it's the goal for this to kind of understand the different communities in these areas, sorry, or to actually understand the technology behind all of these different approaches, so we can understand the benefits to the communities and maybe grasp some of those technologies into the implementation for your client, or just trying to understand the biggest goal of all of this that we're looking at right now.
Yeah. So the objective here is I want to understand the developer workflow for someone who is doing what I think is their use case, which is machine learning on premise. Also, the alternative sort of tertiary, they're just not quite ready for the tertiary, is robotics. And so right now I'm sort of doing like a validation. And so I'm trying to understand developers, understand their workflow, understand what kind of plays into that. And so really this is like on the research side, but then it's also, hey, we've got these potential developer channels. Is this a place where we should go engage? Like, the way I look at DevRel, and I have a playbook that I put out, but I'll kind of just say this like very, very like TLDR, is that it's understanding your problem fit, right? What does your dev tool do? What's the pain point it solves and who has that? But then there's these buckets on top, and it's discoverability, credibility, aha moment, and then advocacy, customer advocacy though. And so those four buckets, right, I'm constantly trying to fill those buckets for my client. If they have high credibility, then it's time for discoverability, which is actually one of my other clients. In this case, with this client, they're like so early on that all of these pillars are very low, and so I need to understand where do they perfectly fit in, and then how can I build the credibility for them, right? We need to actually build the V1 docs, which I need to understand how we can go about doing that. So how do we build the credibility so that they have the developer experience they need to be like, yes, you know what you're talking about. So I can start to drive the discoverability, which is having their content and their thought leadership and just any sort of conversation in developer channels. And then all of that hopefully leads to, that aha moment, which means they come to the platform and they're like, yes, they get me. I found them. They the thing I think that they could do, and I found the moment, and I'm ready to try them. So I'm like starting to build all the pillars for them, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. All right, perfect. Thank you for the context. So one
Yeah.
thing I can say very briefly about what I'm currently working on is that, and this is just part of my experience. I'm working with Google in their AI ecosystem, and also in terms of AppSmith, a lot of our customers are looking forward to integrate AI. And what I can say is that all of them want to implement AI, but they don't like the fact that all of these models that currently exist can train data on their specific data. So they are looking forward for
Mm.
self-hosted internal models that can easily run to be trained on their customer data without using OpenAI or Google Gemini or Cloud, which is Anthropic's, because all of them are not promising that they can train their models on that data. So obviously they don't want their private data to be trained on those models. Now that might be a particular case of the developer ecosystem I'm at, and the ideal customer profile that I'm working on, which is enterprises. Maybe for other
Right.
customers, they don't care their data being trained over there. But long story short, I've been testing Olama tree and Llama tree, which is a simple way for you to open source running on your own machine or on any server, open source models that's going to be privately trained on your data, and you can easily implement. So for example, infrastructure as code like Terraform or something like that, you can easily deploy in a matter of minutes your own private model from a model garden, but it's going to be running again privately on your data. Is something that this particular uh, customers care. Again, I might be
Yeah.
just not missing all of the other ones. That's the only thing I could say. Apart from that, I haven't worked in robotics for a long time, but this is a really nice case you have on your hands right now.
Isn't it fun? Like, I honestly, like, I got some really fun clients. Okay, so actually, what
Yeah.
you shared was super helpful because they're on the use case trajectory towards more like regulated ecosystems, and like eventually, I mean, they talk to General Motors, right, and not as partners, right? This is literally just people we talked to at the booth, so I'm not sharing any proprietary information. They just walked up and chatted with us, right? And there's all use cases there, like a tractor, right? That like where they can put the software in the tractor. You need reproducibility where it's like, yes, every single time you're going to get the exact same results before you do that deployment and know that, boom, everything is what it needs to be. So what you're saying really is actually relatable, and very relatable to their use case, because then again, I think it's the same sentiment. And the reason why on-premise is actually the niche, they can use cloud and whatever, it's going to be fine, right? They can go after cloud developers, but that's not where the pain is. So they want to go to where the pain is. And in the on premise, it is that pain. So you're actually validating where the hypothesis is going, actually. So that was very, very, very helpful and has me
Yeah.
thinking. You have ice skating.
I mean, I can tell you that this weekend I was on the Google Developer Expert Festival here in Calgary. I'm in New York right now. And most of the questions that the Google team had was around data privacy. Like they launch all of these huge new
Mm,
model gardens. All right, that's amazing. But the question is that are those models trained on our data? And they couldn't answer the question. So most of the concerns around AI models right now
yeah.
are data privacy. And if you're solving that with a very easy, digestible technology for a developer community who's eager to implement AI, I think you're in the nice road over there.
Yeah, I know, right? That's why we're kind of like niching down to try to find that. Um, Gosh, there probably is something there. Okay, that actually has me like ideating, and the reason why it has me ideating, definitely from a DevRel side, but also from like serving multiple clients. So like, trying to be efficient, is that I have a different client who started out being a database company. And I'm just kind of re-diving in with them because I actually engaged with them before, and they have evolved. And now it is like almost like sort of all of your infrastructure, but in like a very like physical way. So it's like deploy physically, right? So same concept of like, so one of their big use cases is like on like security cameras, right? So like physically, like actually having something that can be in existence there. And so now I'm like, whoa, can I take that client plus this other client that does like a security layer, and the use case is AI and ML again, because in that case, it's trying to alleviate traffic that's just tapping into their GPUs and not providing what needs to get provided, right? So it's infrastructure cost decrease is the reason why that use case is happening. And then I'm like, now I've got this other, I've got Fimio, the actual client we're talking about. And I'm like, whoa, I think I could build something here, like build the infrastructure there, use the security layer, deploy out with the client I'm talking about. And that's like so nerdy and fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There are some new people who has joined, and I love that. This is so random, by the way. You're joining a session of me just working live. I am doing this for the first time today, so we'll see how it goes. To kind of catch you up, we are talking about a dev tool that I am working with that is still sort of trying to find its little space in the beautiful ecosystem, but they've got a lot of major opportunity. And we found one that we think is a big opportunity. We are actually just validating and talking about this. is in the ML ops on-premise deployment space, because they focus on reproducibility. So without getting too much into them, they really focus on sort of ensuring that, like, if you're going to deploy something, that everything is ready. And so it goes through the entire process of, like, what are your dependencies, what frameworks are involved, what is, because all that stuff is changing so constantly, so that it makes it that it's like, hey, what is all inside of this? Let's just confirm that everything is operating as it should. Honestly, it feels like, like early days Jenkins, when Jenkins first came out. It's like kind of the concept of like DevOps and continuous deployment and testing and, everything that is so common now, but sort of in a different context, and like a physical way, right? Some pain points that like some folks that we're having, that I think the client can fall into, is like literally having to like drive a hard drive of something fit, like, and I'm literally saying drive it, like get it in a thing and drive it, take a plane or a car or whatever and bring the physical thing, because they have to make sure that it's right in its last state, which just kind of blows my mind. And so it's a pain point in kind of the ML ops space a bit, depending on your scenario, and in this case on-prem. Yeah, totally. No, I mean, like early days though, right? We're saying when Jenkins was like the first thing, Circle CI didn't exist. We didn't have the other dev tools. Then obviously GitHub came into that bunch. Like, I'm sort of talking about like DevOps. I don't even know. I don't know the proper language, but when DevOps and all of our beautiful automated testing and things started becoming a lot more normal. Feels like they're in the early days of a new industry, essentially. It's probably how I should say it. Yeah, yay, that's great. Welcome, Maria. I'm glad you're here. Feel free to jump in, by the way. This is set up as a meeting in my community, so anyone can jump in. I don't actually even know. I think I'd have to like kick you out to get you to be quiet. So it's very open and engaging. So please jump in if you wanna chat. Peter, I'm catching up on your message. So that's really cool that you're in the robotics and the AI space, because that's very like obviously fitting for my client. That's bananas. Peter, you should probably chat. You could probably come in and help them with some stuff if you have an interest. Yay, new to DevRel. That is amazing. Well, then hopefully some of my ramblings will bring you some value. Oh, very cool. Man, the poor Learn DevRel site is like dead. I think it's alive, but it's kind of dead. I have like not posted anything on it in a very long time. Oh, this is so fun. Oh, welcome. Do you pronounce it Nina? If you want to jump on. I don't want to push you to be audible if you don't want to be, but I also want to make sure that I pronunciate your name correctly. It's very cool.
I don't know if you can hear me, but it's pronounced Nana.
Nana. Okay, love it.
Yes.
I can definitely hear you. This is very open. So if anyone has opinions or thoughts or things, honestly, like I think please discuss. I think the value is more in the discussion, honestly. So yeah, jump in if you want.
Does their company has any IoT engineer?
I didn't catch what you heard. What'd you say?
Does their company has any IoT engineer?
I don't know, honestly.
Because I think most of the robotics works is done by an IoT engineer, and they should have an architecture diagram of what they are trying to achieve. So maybe if you take that architecture stuff and try to break it down, maybe it will be easier for everyone. Or do a deep dive session or YouTube session on their architecture stuff.
Okay, that's a good idea. Okay. How do you spell that? Do you want to throw that in the chat?
What? Oh,
Like how, yeah, what? Thank you. Oh, I thought that you said like, you referenced did you reference a platform?
no.
Okay, got it. Okay. I get what you're saying now. Okay, now I understand. That would be interesting, actually. Yeah, because there's a lot going on with that in regards to like,
Uh,
yeah,
because I am part of another open source project, which is like DevOps, microservice, and blockchain. And they have an architecture diagram. Let me share that link with you so you will understand what I'm saying. And it became much more easier when I saw that diagram to anyone.
that would be amazing. I greatly, greatly appreciate that. Awesome. Yeah, so obviously very interesting space that I'm trying to figure out. I feel like a lot of us are trying to figure it out. Obviously, like Kevin was speaking to earlier, that teams over at Google are trying to figure out how do we have these learning models that are secure, which I think is an interesting pain point. Is anyone in the? Let's see. Hold on. Let me go back and look at the chat. What I'm hoping to objectively learn, and Arvin's obviously helping me with that, and I appreciate that too, is like the workflow, right? The workflow of someone who might be building these types of things. And how do I understand where it fits in? Like, what other tools are they using so that I understand if this client's tool makes sense in this case, right? Is the use case validated? Is there something already solving it? Like, should they not be building towards one direction versus maybe building towards another direction? To understand solving the right pain point, very early. Whoa, look at this thing of beauty. Oh my God. This is very cool. Who built this?
It's the GitHub repo of that open source project and is the
Got
whole
it.
architecture diagram. So if I try to tell someone what they are trying to do, it's very complex. But with the help of this diagram, I don't have to do anything.
This is fire. When you talk to developers, do you provide this resource or they kind of vet through it first?
So like I am a maintainer in that open source project. So when someone new want to join our project and try to understand what is going on, so it's one of the beginner material I share. Like it is the whole architecture diagram, and if you want to like contribute in any specific components, you can from this diagram you can understand like what are the tools we are using and how they
Yep.
are integrated. And it's also like mentioned in that table in the right.
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm sharing this with my client right now because this is good.
And I know the developer who created that. So if you want to talk, I can share his LinkedIn with you.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing actually.
Yeah. Let me share his LinkedIn.
I wonder if what he used to actually make this. Like if he used like a little tool to make all the arrows pointing, or if he just
I think it's
custom
Mermaid.
it.
I'm not sure.
Hmm. Don't mind me. I'm just writing a message to my client.
Yeah, I share the LinkedIn of the developer. And if you want, I can share this Discord handle also.
Yeah, absolutely. These are all open if they want to join. Oh, thank you. Okay. Very cool. I appreciate this. Yeah, I think that this would be incredibly enlightening for my client for sure, because it is very complicated. And then this would, I don't even understand it fully, right? Like we're really trying to carve in a space of both understanding the flow, but also learning from others, See, that's why these sessions are so good. Welcome, Julian.
And one good
Yep.
stuff about this architecture diagram is that when we want to integrate something new, we can always reference to the older version. So we will create a new version on top of it. So like in case of context switching, like
Yep.
someone is telling you, hey, I was using that and now it's the new version, so they can compare this themselves. So we don't have to like tell them every step what new stuff we have done so far.
Yes.
And
This is
also if someone want to give a technical tech talk in any conference, it's a great material.
right. The resource is already here. I just realized there's multiple
Yes.
pages.
Yes.
Yeah, this is really great. Okay, love this. I think too, when you're like thinking about sort of like, now this is like kind of getting in the DevRel expertise side of things, is like when developers come in and they're first looking at a platform, right? Especially like this platform in this case, where they don't have any brand recognition, no one knows who they are, even though the founders are from GitHub, right? Well known behind the scenes, but it's like they don't necessarily know when a developer comes to a site that it's trustworthy. And like I really feel like if I were to see something, especially in a space that is so complicated, like sort of, ML deployments right now, and even sort of just the entire ecosystem, this would build a huge amount of credibility with me, because I would be like, whoa, not only are they solving a pain point from what I can tell, right? But they clearly understand my pain point, because I should hypothetically be able to look at the chart and be like, yes, 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 yes. Those are all the things that I'm doing. Like this workflow diagram that you have right here is exactly what I'm objectively trying to understand. And now I'm like, I wish there was a tool that just made these. There probably is, but this is so good.
I already texted him.
Love
So
it. I love it. Well, no pressure, because depending on where you're at, like it might be really late in someone's day. But if they join, that's great. I think just fundamentally, though, when you think about DevRel, like how valuable this is. I mean, as a developer, right, we can look at this and be like, yes, this is all the things.
And this is particularly close to what I was mentioning for the ICP customers that we have at AppSmith, which is like they're enterprises, they care about self-hosting, connecting to their own data, but still they want to leverage AI, machine learning algorithms, but they're scared. They don't know how to achieve. It's a very huge bridge between understanding the AI concepts and seeing what other companies are doing and trying to implement something like that in your own space and in your own with your own problems. And so what we're doing is like something similar to this. Is since AppSpeed it's open source, and there's a bunch of different AI models that can be run as well as open source. What we're doing is just leveraging, giving them the option to have a very simple way to deploy to their own infrastructure using Kubernetes as well, very similar to what we're looking at the diagram, with other analytics tools and monitoring tools like Prometheus, which is also over there as well. And so they can implement all of that with just a couple of clicks, auto deploy to whatever infrastructure they're at. If they love AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Azure, or even if they have their own bare server metals, like that's fine. It can be deployed over there. And and so, for example, I was working with one of our customers with their use cases, which is very impactful. How companies are losing money every day to to fraud in terms of fake invoices. Google, Microsoft, a lot of companies, they just get random invoices and looks like they're getting paid because they process so many different invoices per week from so many different providers. Organization loses 5% of their annual revenue to to invoice fraud. That's a lot of money, and it's because the amount of volume they have to process. So they wanted to use AI to process their invoices and their contracts to find for different fraud. There's a bunch of open source financial models that understand different fraud mechanism to understand all of that. But again, they're concerned about data privacy because they have private invoices, they have private terms of conditions and contracts. They cannot share that with the open source models, to the open models like OpenAI or Gemini or Cloud. And so what they did is they implemented a workflow which processes all of their invoices they're getting with AI machine learnings running internally in their own servers, and using those financial models and finding all of those invoices that could potentially be fraudy, and then triggering, for those who found something fraudy, it will be triggering some sort of hook to notify the financial team and say, hey, this invoice we got here, based upon the models that we have, the contract, the terms and conditions, seems to be fraudy because all of these reasons. So over there, they're gaining a lot of time, a lot of value, because they are catching a lot of the fraudy invoices they're getting, and obviously getting a lot of value. And everything's running on their own infrastructure. Now, that's
Yeah.
just a use case in my space, but again, it's similar to what we're looking at right now, and it's extremely powerful.
No, I agree. And I think, well, you telling that story, I think is like, those are the insights, right? Of like understanding sort of like how can you validate or invalidate a market hypothesis, right? Of, okay, yes, the pain point is there. No, the pain point is not there. Ooh, new link. Thank you for that, Arvind. In just regards to like understanding that, that is really interesting. Man, what a beautiful, like, what a beautiful thing for someone to build out. 5% of their revenue, or 5% of revenue is lost due to that. Like, you could charge them a percentage, 1% of that, and they'd happily take the other 4%. And I can only imagine the lucrative amount of 1% that amount of money is that they would pay for that
Yeah,
solution.
right. Right.
That's how you build dev tools. Find the pain points that are unsolved. Yeah, Josh, you missed obviously you missed this $1 million, $1 billion idea. I'm joking, by the way. Let me catch you up really quickly. We have been chatting about, I know, right? Could have been this beautiful, beautiful solution. No, we have been chatting. So what I came into objectively with today is I'm doing research for my client. I'm trying to understand the developer workflow of someone who is doing any form of like a machine learning deployment. More specifically, I think on premise. I am trying to understand that so I can validate or invalidate hypothesis that we have around a use case. We're pretty validated on it. However, still continuing to do that research, and more so now, the research is very focused around, okay, how do we create content? How do we create the first version of the docs? So this is a client who is not even out into the world yet, so it's very, very, very early for them. And so I need to understand, how can I write a doc that's going to be valuable, or provide the insights they need, but also sort of thinking about where does that come into play, and how do we deeply understand the actual use case of who needs this solution, essentially. So we started looking at some developer channels and communities and different things, and we've been chatting, which has been really valuable to hear how other people do stuff. And Arvind, very awesome, like brought in this diagram to sort of give us an overview of like complicated systems and how to document complicated systems, really, and how they utilize this to sort of come in and work with developers to like clarify. This is, to me, it feels like clarify sort of where you're at, right? Here's what we do. Here's kind of the flow for what we do. And I think this would be a valuable resource for my client. Anything else? Multiple clients I'm actually validating some stuff with.
I
Yeah, jump in. No, you can
I
jump in.
also shared another link which contained a more technical overview how it's integrating with the XRPL ledger, which is like the blockchain database.
Is it this one?
Yes. So this is the component. In the left side is the web page, and in the right side, if you scroll down,
Yep.
it is how it's integrating with the XRPL ledger, which is the blockchain stuff.
Interesting. This is in blockchain, you said?
Yeah, the right side, the XRP ledger.
Oh, got it. Okay.
And this project got a grant of $70,000 to integrate the XRPL,
Oh my gosh, this is
but
awesome.
it's very complicated.
Right. Yeah. I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't feel so technically capable in this moment as I look at this, but I know it's just because this is just this, and it's complicated,
Yeah,
right?
yes. Maybe I like Spider-Man more now.
Yeah, I could see that. This is cool though. Like, this is very obviously explanatory, but really shows, I mean, oftentimes we're trying to map this and do other complicated mappings, right, to understand all this. I love this. These resources are so helpful. I think that's pretty much everything. If anyone else wants to jump in and share what else we've been chatting about or I may have missed, please do. I'm going to keep actually chugging through my list a little bit unless we jump into a great conversation. Oh, this repo, awesome AI awesomeness. Absolutely have to check this out. Oh, this is awesome, actually. So, Kevin, you know what I think is really interesting is that, I mean, obviously, I guess resources are created as solutions are solved and then they go to communicate solutions. But I've been really trying to do quite a bit of research in regards to where these people are hanging out, spending time, channels, right? Where they're at. And like, even from a newsletter, blog, etc. standpoint, and there's like hardly anything. And to me, it's like, have you found learning resources? That's what I'm trying to get to. My brain's kind of like thinking about a lot of things, but I can't find stuff. And I'm like, where are people going? Are they literally having to self-learn this? Like it's really painful.
I agree with you. When our customers came to us and say, "Oh, it's great to integrate with OpenAI," I don't care about that. I need something private. How can I run my own models, etc., or all of that information? Yeah, I agree with you. Hard to
Yeah.
find and extremely hard to digest. Like, uh, I know it's a complex topic, and I've been doing AI even since when I was working at IBM in the Watson division, and it's really hard to find content that is easy to digest in the AI space and the machine learning space because yeah, there are complex topics. I get it, but I believe that the people creating content in that space are great technical and amazing people, but they're not great educators or storytellers, and it's really hard to digest that technical level without understanding the value of the implementation first of all, because you get a bunch of different examples. All right, yeah, I can detect an object on a video, that's great, but how could I implement that and solve a real problem? That's where the gap is, and yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. That is actually such a good call out there too. In regards to knowing the gap rate, I think they're busy building stuff. Like all the startups that I'm engaging with over in that space, they're so, yeah, I mean, it's true, right? They are so boom, 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 really fast paced. I actually absolutely love it. And it was one of the niches that I wanted to sort of research and invest in my business. And it's kind of come to me and I love it because I'm very fast paced. If you can't tell by how fast I talk alone. And so they're just like, boom, boom, async meeting 10 minutes in and out. And I'm like, okay, great. On the downfall, they're very like, they want results immediately. So then they're like, oh, when it comes to research, it's like, well, what did you find? Like hours later, I'm like, well, wait a minute. It's literally taken me days to get as far as we've gotten, right? To understand what we have because there isn't a lot of stuff out there. Which has been, somewhat of a struggle. It's all kind of hidden. And on top of it, I don't know if anyone has been to an event, and maybe some of y'all are more qualified and knowledgeable than I am. But when I was at ML Ops World, I like felt like a non-developer again. When like you walk up and you go to talk to a developer. I don't know if anyone's ever been in this space, right? Where you're like, how I'm trying to explain the scenario because sometimes it might have been because I was a woman, but anyways, coming to a situation where like you have to explain that you're a developer and they assume that you're not a developer. And so I was in that space of trying to sort of be like, oh, what do you do? Get to know people at the event. And they're like, it was clear that I didn't know all of their jargon. And so I like felt like a non-developer again, like I was being judged whether or not I was technical or not. And so it was really interesting too. And then I think they keep a very tight knit like gatekeeping around their ecosystem as well as it maybe not maliciously, but I think it's just like, hey, we're so busy that like you're a newbie and we don't have time to catch you up. Like you don't know what you're talking about yet. So like you're gonna have to go figure that out. When you figure that out, then come back and talk to us kind of thing. I don't know. I agree with that too. There really was jargon everywhere, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play along. Some of it I understood, but some of it was like, and it could have just been like tools or like like someone who's just a software engineer being like, you know, I use for sell, or I don't know. Like that was a horrible example, but you know what I mean. Like I don't know. It was things I just didn't know. Yeah. Ooh, Julian shared something. Read this article. That one's in the chat. Cool. Julian, do you want to
You
jump
hear
in?
me? Yeah, I'm preparing for sports, so I have only a few minutes.
Oh, no
But
worries. Do you want to tell us the TRD? Yeah.
your I like this art. Let me just put the camera on. I resonate with what you were just saying, like talking about AI and how much there is to ingest. And I actually find this article is basically saying that there's the experts, the people that are building the models and operating the models, and etc. But that's if you look at who's using those AI tools, then most of the time they're being dumbed down, and then people build apps on top of that. And I feel like there's still a large gap there. And like if you want to build an app on AI, you don't even know where to start because there's just too much to know, and the depth. It's difficult to gauge which depth you're at when you're building something. So there is, at least, I think this article describes it well, a gap into people who know a little bit, but just enough so that they can build on top of the experts that are building behind.
Yes.
Basically what you were, I think, describing. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. And it is, right? There's like a learning curve of, and we all know this, right? Because like we know what we know today, and it took us the giant learning curve in the beginning to get past it, to start to, how do I Google something, right? Not even understanding how to go find the answer. But I don't know. It feels like it's just such a heavy one. And it doesn't, I don't know. There's so many solutions. Maybe we're so early that this is just what it's like.
It's very hyped as well. I think it's not much different than if you look at OpenTelemetry, for example, where you're being thrown around with like a lot of, I don't know, like, logs and traces and metrics and Argo CD and this and that. And then you realize you just have to ingest the words and then put them in little boxes and make a schema out of it. And they're all equivalent to some extent.
Right. That's valid. This post was linked in there, so I opened it from the blog post if anyone's curious what I'm sharing right now. I'll just throw this in the chat too, just in case. I was looking at this because it intrigued me, because it had said how to break into AI engineering. And I'm like, oh, how do you break into AI engineering?
I have some opinions about AI engineer stuff. There are one group of people who are saying that for AI engineer you have to do all mathematics, machine learning, deep learning, all kind of stuff. And there are one group of people who are saying that AI engineers are only the full stack developer who are just using AI features in their application. So like if I am finding a lot of YouTube tutorial also, the title is AI engineering, and they are like teaching NumPy, pandas, deep learning, that kind of stuff.
Interesting. So no different than the other ecosystems where there's judgment. There's judgment on both sides.
Yes. Well, I am creating a lot of projects using AI, and I didn't know math. I didn't study all math or anything about that. I studied LangChain, LangGraph, and I just integrated in my Next.js application.
Interesting. Okay. I'm peeking at the chat here. Yeah, I agree with that, Maria. This all takes time to figure it out and master it. Arvind, are you working on that project that you shared the resource for? Or maybe you shared this earlier, I apologize, but what do you do in your day-to-day?
So I am currently working at a different startup where I am a full stack developer, but now I want a job at DevRel, so I'm slowly learning about that. And this is an Linux Foundation open source project. I contribute to learn DevOps and that kind of stuff.
Very cool.
The architecture
Okay.
background.
Well, that's awesome. Well,
Yeah,
definitely continue to linger around this community because I'm happy to teach all the DevRel, but my technical capabilities and especially understanding in like this space is obviously
yeah.
very, very, very early.
Like I am following you from a very long time. Remember, you
Oh.
created a Fastnote-like community and a Slack server 3, 4 years ago. At that time, I was in like first year of my college. So, and then it got discontinued, maybe because uh, I'm not sure why. And yeah,
Well, I appreciate you following me. I will have to reciprocate. I appreciate you joining this call. So I agree on this post also. It's actually on Y Combinator, but oh no, it is Hacker News. Okay. That's strange. I did not realize that their URL was different, and I've been to this site like thousands of times. I have never paid attention to the fact that the URL on this is actually Y Combinator. Huh. Okay. Interesting. Anyways, this is very interesting. This person obviously makes it like very, if I read this, I don't know about y'all, but if I read this, I would be like, yeah, no, I'm walking away. This is like statistical language. Nope. Mathematical foundations. Nope. Interesting. Fast AI. What is that? Hey, this feels approachable. Practical deep learning for coders. Has anyone been exposed to this content or this author before? For context, I took
he's
this
very
from.
famous. Jeremy Howell. He's a famous person.
I kind of figured,
He
because in order, yeah, sorry.
he created this fast.ai library, which is like a wrapper you can use on top of PyTorch or TensorFlow to do the deep learning uh, calculations. But a lot of people still prefer core PyTorch because it gives them more flexibility while creating a deep learning project.
Hmm.
So FastAI is just
Ha.
a wrapper.
Okay, you are helping make things click because someone was actually talking about this at MLOps World, and it was like so far over my head. But now that you're saying this, because they were essentially also talking about sort of like the unreliability of, not that PyTorch is not unreliable, but all of the dependencies and everything changing and why they would want to use fast AI potentially. So that makes sense now, because now it's, as you're saying, it's like a wrapper, right? So I would assume some of that stuff might be less painful, although still probably painful.
Yes, just like the Keras is for TensorFlow, FastAI is for PyTorch.
Got it. Okay, this is helpful. All right. I feel like I almost just like need to have a good conversation with you and like walk through all the things. Oh yeah. That makes sense, Ray. That's actually a really good analogy for how to put that. I like that. Welcome, by the way. I don't think I had seen you in here yet. You might have snuck in towards the end. Feel free to unmute and chat. It's just a quiet group, but it is very much, well, I shouldn't say everyone's quiet. Y'all have been engaging, but feel free to engage as much as you want. Yeah, throw your handles in Blue Sky if you want in the chat. Then everyone can connect, like all for community growth. I am also in there. with the same username everywhere. Okay, cool. Learned about this. Let's see. I'm going to go back to my sheet. For those of you who are new, Ray, I think you are newer. Joshua, I did catch you up. I'll just do this really quickly. I have a few clients actually in the AI and sort of ML ecosystem. One of which is it's more a use case that can fit there. So their product specifically isn't there. So it's a little bit less confusing. But one of them, the product is very much ingrained into the ecosystem. And so I'm trying to just validate and understand the developers that are in this ecosystem and how they think, what they use, the tools they use. Also, it's been really nice to relate and chat with others and discuss how difficult it is to learn this ecosystem. I've been able to do DevRel in like so many different ecosystems, like open source, DevOps, security, social media, AR, like hard stuff, right? But like AI and ML is the absolute hardest by far to dive in and pick up. And I feel like augmented reality should have fell into that bucket. So it's been a really good call in at least sort of even just understanding what others have witnessed, and Kevin helping me commiserate on how difficult it is to actually like learn. Oh, are y'all on virtual coffee network together too? Because that's also awesome. That's fun. Okay, following some of you people really quickly before I lose it. So what I have pulled up right now is actually like channels and sort of insights that I was digging through for my client. And this one specifically was developer communities. So it's kind of like community-esque, but also where people are spending time. So we just opened, I'll share this tab instead. We were just opening this not too long ago in regards to, which I very much appreciate, by the way. I should actually start this. Awesome AI awesomeness. That name is absolutely amazing. But to come back to this, also it's shared in the chat. Let me throw this in the chat just in case. Bye, Kevin. It was really great having you. He's already gone, so he can't hear me. Anyways, I think this is really cool. It has a bunch of different types of obviously awesome links in here. Deep learning 500 questions. That really intrigues me. Oh, goodness. Okay. That's a lot. We'll come back to that. Anyways, these are the kinds of things that I'm looking for because I'm just trying to understand it. And now I'm patching developer conversations over top of it. Okay, cool. And to be honest with you, I'm really was just like, I'm just going to do DevRel live and just see how it goes. So I'm not really all that prepared and I'm just kind of winging it. Hey, Ray, on video anyways. I don't think anyone new joined, but. Oh, you're smart. You're like doing stuff in the background while you're hanging out. That's how you do it. All right. Has anyone gone to any events that they found value in the space? Feel free to share in chat if you don't want to actually vocally share. But like Snowflake just had their build conference and I missed it. I got invited to it and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I like registered for a ticket and then I realized it was like that day and then I already missed the first day. I need to go back, but I haven't found. I went to MLOps World just a couple weeks ago in Austin, and that was actually really good to just like get to know the ecosystem a little bit. Gartner Conf. Okay, cool. That's interesting. I actually could see that though. I feel like that would be really valuable for like insights. So as my head, I don't know, share my DevRel kind of thinkings, I guess. So when Ray shared Gartner Conf, I'm like, okay, it's very like enterprise like, right? And my client very much is targeting like startup early stage, quick like sales cycle turnaround. Their actual big objective is actually design partners right now to make sure that the tool is built in the way that it should be, so they can validate that. And so my head was immediately like, no, that's going to be a bunch of enterprise people. But I think because we're in a place of validating information and hypotheses, is that a word? Hypotheses? Anyways, I think it actually could be valid because there's a lot that could be learned there in that regard. So that's interesting. I'm gonna put that on my list.
Are you in the MLOps community, the Slack community?
No, I don't think so. That's where I'm. This is the stuff I'm trying to build. I would love to.
Do,
If you have a
do you
link, that'd be
want an
great.
invite? Because it's at 22,000 people.
Yes, that would be amazing. I would love an invite. See, this is
I
all
shared
like
the
the hidden stuff. Thank you.
I shared the link in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that.
Also, I do a lot of R&D stuff, research and experimental development. That's why I know a lot of tools. Let me know if anyone like to discuss this anytime.
Yeah, you're like in it trying to solve some big problems, so you have to go seek this stuff out, basically.
Yes.
Ooh, this is so good. Uh, this is awesome. Thank you for the invite. I really like this getting started page, and I did not realize that Slack can do this. I can't share my screen in this infrastructure that's like on my desktop. I can only share Chrome browser windows. So I can't share it with you, but to sort of just, I don't know, DevRel essence and goodness, they have this getting started page, and at the top, it's like say hello to people. And so it put Arvind in there, right, as someone like they invited you. And then it has like additional people. Really, it just looks like it's just kind of probably recommending some of the top thought leaders, because they all have like pretty big, important titles. And then it has like Explorer channels to join, which again, I've never seen this kind of stuff in Slack. I feel like they kind of just leave you to the wolves. They just kind of drop you in, right? Because it's more enterprise, or short, I should say more like company level engagement. But nonetheless, they've done a really good job with this getting started page in this community. So if you're looking for Slack community tips, there's a tip right there in their getting started page.
Also, I shared
All
another
right.
link of Data Talk Club. You can talk with his maintainer. He do a lot of he took a lot of interview of open source ML and MLOps project. And
Oh,
mm, yeah, and Alexei, he's from Germany,
mm-hmm.
and he also runs his own Slack server. So you can reach out to him in his Slack, or you can reach out to him in Twitter also.
Oh, wow. This is cool. Okay, so there are resources. They're just like harder to find. We got to find Arvin to get all the resources.
Yeah, let me share the Slack link and his Twitter handle for you.
Well, I really appreciate this. You're like a wealth of knowledge. You know, which has actually been sort of interesting as I've been like building and growing my business and sort of evolving, that the thing that I've realized that is like the most valuable that I can provide is actually like my developer network. At least I think anyways. Because oftentimes they're like trying to figure all this stuff out, right? And so then I'm like, well, okay, I'm just gonna dive in and figure it out. And that's what we're so good at, right? And like Arvind, obviously you're like very well connected over in this side. Which is really nice. And I think it's helpful when you can like tap into that audience and actually find the developers doing the thing. Because most of the value I've been able to provide for my clients in terms of like delivering DevRel sort of services has really been on like the validation side of things, because they're in early stage of like, hey, what I mean, like we're targeting front end devs. And I'm like, targeting front end devs is like way too big of an audience. So we need to niche that down, and we find the actual use cases, right, of those pain points. But then outside of it, once we get that and we understand it, and we've got sort of the fundamental strategy of how we'll go out and do DevRel, then it's like time to learn and understand and get involved and be in the channels. And admittedly, like at the end of the day, the only thing that I feel like I'm really doing from all the DevRel things that we all hear about is like basic developer experience auditing, like understanding where there are pain points and hurdles and sharing and resolving them. And then the other side is feedback, right? Understanding for that product validation. And then after that, it's content and channels, and that's it. Like there is content And there's certain things that we're talking about, and we're doing it in certain developer channels. And it's just been interesting for me to sort of think about that from like coming from enterprise, right? It came from Snapchat. Everything was so much more complicated. And I don't want to say that it doesn't need to be complicated when you get into a bigger company, but as I've been really thinking through this, I'm like, why does it have to be more complicated? Like at the end of the day, you still should just be spending time in those developer channels and making sure that they can reach that aha moment, you know?
In the last three links, I shared this Slack link of Data Talk Club and the Twitter handle of Alexi,
Oh,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
last Twitter handle is of Maria, who is in robotics, and she's also Microsoft MVP. So talk with us.
Oh my gosh, thank you for this. This is great. I was actually trying to do like a little search to find some stuff, and I have like 10 people in my LinkedIn that are doing this type of work. And I'm like, it's just interesting as you sort of start to evolve and like build networks that, I don't know, like as DevRel, it's like I'm self like looking back and like, whoa, these people are in my network, or there are people that I can tap into. And I think that's the joy of like developers, right? Is that everyone thinks we're so hard to market to, but I actually tell people we're the simplest to market to. Because at the end of the day, it's like, it's no fluff, it's no crap, it's no BS. It's like, just come in and tell us the truth. If you lie to us, we're going to know. But if you tell us the truth, we're going to know. And the adoption is a lot easier. You don't have to learn the like fancy latest, growth tactic, right? You just come in and actually deeply understand your audience and then serve them. MIT OpenCourseWare is phenomenal. Okay, like that. My usual gym watch, data, science, math, comp sci, etc. And the B school courses. Okay, thank you for those tips, Ray. Appreciate it. All right, well, I think I'm almost wrapped up in the time I had scheduled. Is there anyone that has any challenges that they are currently facing in DevRel, or any like open DevRel questions that they would want to ask in the last like 15 minutes?
I have a question. Since I do front end, back end, DevOps, machine learning, AI, all of stuff, I make a lot of projects. But when I want to try DevRel, I am always confused, like which step to take and which step to not take, like from how to start, because I am doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So when you say it like that, like objectively, what are you maybe trying to work towards that you would, are you saying like documenting and sort of doing thought leadership around the projects that you're building?
No, for like creating my portfolio.
Oh, got it. Got it. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. So from like putting on my DevRel leadership hat, right? In terms of like portfolio, I presume kind of like looking to, obviously you're building a portfolio, like looking to potentially do DevRel work. I can assume, right? And so as you,
Yes.
yeah, okay, cool. So as you're bringing a portfolio together, I think thinking about actually the value that you provided me today, right? I think oftentimes the whole value of DevRel is that it's developers serving other developers, right? Like you get the ecosystem, you understand the peers, you're hanging out with them, you're in the channels, which you've made like crystal clear, right? Of like, your knowledge around some of the channels here, just even today. And so thinking about DevRel, like objectively, right? It's about serving developers. And so in other spaces where you've done that, I think that's where the value is. When you're looking for engineering roles, absolutely, that's when you want those projects where you can explain, here's my position, or here's sort of my role in this infrastructure. They can go look at public repositories. That's straightforward, right? But when you're thinking about DevRel, it's more about sort of the developer focus on the other end. Let me see if I can explain this a little bit better. Like you helping me with channels and helping me understand the developer ecosystem is the value at which a developer can bring into DevRel. and then being able to help serve those. So if you were to apply to a role, let's just hypothetically say that I was a DevRel leader at one of the clients or the companies I was talking about today, and you came in and you happened to be in a live stream that I did, right, where you were helping me with all these channels, then I would look at it and actually want to understand how you're connected and how you understand that and how you can serve the other developers. So that often falls into like thought leadership pieces where you maybe gave, public speaking presentations at meetups or at conferences. That could look like blog posts that you wrote about, hey, I solved this problem and here's how I solved it technically. And how you're able to explain that to a developer, because then someone else can understand it. Like even speaking about sort of what we are talking about today, right? Of like, it's so difficult to get into this ecosystem, and that, yes, there are probably resources that are kind of hidden, and that's just a part of the process to go discover where the developer channels are. But I think above and beyond that, there's still this pain point of us who know the ecosystem. We know what we're supposed to do to go find channels, and yet we can't find them. And so kind of coming around from that, right, is like having that touch, having that understanding. I would look to your portfolio as a very, I think, essentially a validation. And sorry, I'm being a little rambly because my brain's got a bunch of sort of thoughts in here, but I would look to your portfolio as a validation that you're able to serve other developers. So if I saw the proof in, like I said, that thought leadership, or in some of your actual open source contributions, or in videos for recordings or podcasts or other things like that, that would be the value. So as you're thinking about your projects, what you may want to think about is more of like the role that you served in, I don't know, actually, I'm going to pause and ask what your thoughts might be on that, because I think there's a little more here and I don't want to presume that that's what you might be wanting to know.
Because
Yeah.
right now I would see like the job posting of DevRel, and they ask a lot like you have to be active on social media, you have to make YouTube video, you have to like write blog posts, and a person can't be good at all of them like in the starting. So for
Yep.
that I always confuse that. Should I write blog post? Should I create YouTube video? Should I do what? Like grow my social media audience, maybe 4 or 5,000 followers. So like it's doing a lot of stuff, and which is not like very productive, because like in social media reach you have to do a lot of shit post to like your post can gain a lot of new eyes. So it's very confusing sometimes.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Now I have more context. Ray has actually a really great answer. Bring an audience and a reputation, like how a senior salesperson sells an employer on their Rolodex, essentially. It is so right. And I actually have a blog post that I wrote that's called DevRel is Sales. And I thought it was going to be really controversial, and then not many people really argued with it. So I thought it was interesting. Let me grab it and I'll share it in the link. To what you just said, now I have more context and I understand what you're saying. No, they absolutely cannot be. And I could go on a rant about how that is why a lot of DevRel has failed, because of the vast demands at which people think that DevRel can serve. To actually take a step back and to really think about it, like let's talk about sort of the root reason why DevRel even exists, right? DevRel exists because developers are like, no fluff, no BS, no crap. You can't pull your marketing jargon with me. So every company has felt like they've had to shift and change and alter, when at the end of the day, they could have just stopped all the redonkulous, trendy marketing tactics and anything that felt like marketing tactics and just talk to their developers. So if you were on a project, let's say you're building something and you're like, okay, I built a thing and now I want to do some DevRel things. Let's say that hypothetically you build out like an SDK, maybe it's just like small, right? I'm not saying it's like some huge advanced SDK, just something that enables something to get done, right? If you built out that SDK, there's different pieces that go into that, right? So you have to distribute that SDK. You have to obviously document that SDK. You have to test it out and make sure that like it's going to work, it's going to function. There's a variety of things that go into sort of building out an SDK and then putting it into the world. We all know this. We've all built something and wanted to put it into the world. But what we do as developers is we build something and we build it because we had a pain point or an itch or a thing that we had to solve. And then we like forget what some of that stuff was originally. We build it, we get excited about it, we get it out there. And then we're like, ugh, we're struggling to market it because we post on social media, we talk about it, we think that we're talking about it in the right way, when at the end of the day, sometimes we fundamentally need to put our like developer hat on and remember why we built it. And so why we build a thing is because it's causing us a pain, right? We have a pain point that is, something is painful and we want to solve that pain point. And so when you go out and you do DevRel, what you're actually looking for are, wow, I just had this analogy pop into my head. You're actually looking for, like you're looking for patients, like you're a doctor, right? Like you are a doctor, and the thing that you serve is the pain point at which your SDK that you built or your dev tool that you built, what you can cure. And so if you were a doctor that could only cure like a niche specific thing, you're not going to go into the world and be like, and maybe you fix like bones, right? You're not going to go into the world and be like, all the broke bones, I can fix them. But no, maybe you like specifically work on like, I'm making this up as I go, by the way, like wrist bones, like this super tiny, weak bone that is in a wrist. And maybe that's your specialty. You know how to screw those two bones back together, right? Like there's a very, so as I am rambling about this, trying to paint this picture, right? Like there is a niche thing that we need when we look at a dev tool. And if you are able to identify that niche pain point that is being solved, which you are because you built it or you're a part of it, then you need to flip around the way that you market it and the way that you approach it in that way. But it's not marketing. It's going out and finding the developers that have that pain point. So you have to understand that pain point. You have to then start to do the research who has that pain point, right? And then that becomes the audience that you're going after. And it's not like all the bones ever, right? If you're, I made up the analogy, but if you're fixing a little tiny bone in a wrist, you're looking for people who have wrist problems. Maybe they have arthritis in your hands. Maybe they're developers who are ready to retire. Anyways, this fake story that I am building, essentially that's where I think that DevRel, why it's different and why it is so valuable, is because you just get in like a normal developer and you behave like a normal developer. But what you're doing is you're not only allowing for that developer tool to be discoverable, but you're also building credibility. You're also helping developers reach that aha moment, and you're turning them into ideally advocates for your platform or dev tool. You're turning them into customers that want to talk about you. So the 4 things that I just shared are my pillars to DevRel. And so I will say them again. It was discoverability, credibility, aha moment, and advocacy, but not as a developer advocate. Advocacy as you've turned that user, that customer, into an advocate that wants to now engage. They want to contribute to docs. They want to give you feedback. They want to go talk about your tool. And all of that has to be on top of understanding your problem fit. And so that wrist bone analogy is often where a lot of dev tools and people who are hiring DevRel are failing. And they don't even realize that they're hiring to solve a pain point that DevRel can't solve. DevRel can go out and talk to devs and we can come back and give you the feedback. But if that problem fit for those developers is not aligned and they don't understand the pain point that they're solving, then their strategy is going to be all over the place. And so then that means that they're hiring DevRel that is like a pray and spray approach of like, let me just target all the devs that might be in this niche, when at the end of the day, if you niche down, like we've kind of been talking about, right, where my client specifically is on-prem, yes, they can work in cloud, but the pain point is in the on-prem deployments. And so they are not targeting developers who are deploying to the cloud. They're only targeting developers who are deploying to on-prem because that's where the pain point is clear. So yeah, that was a whole bunch of, thank you, Ray. That was a whole bunch of stuff, but I hope that that sort of painted some colors in lots of different directions to help you understand that you're already capable of doing DevRel. It's just the companies aren't capable of understanding what DevRel should and could be, and writing job descriptions that are actually feasible for somebody to actually contribute and provide value to.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Now the picture is more clear now.
Yeah, that's a good question. So DevRel is called DevRel because it's shortened for developer relations. And so it's about relationship building. And so the term actually really is very focused on relationship building, which when you think about it like that, some people are like, oh, let me shift it towards sales. When if you read my post, it is sales, but it's not in its normal sense, right? DevRel to me is like hanging with the nerd herd. And that's a term I like to use a lot, right? We're just getting in, we're hanging with the devs, but we're doing it for the objective of the company behind us. I know, isn't it good? And that company behind us has something that they need. And oftentimes those companies don't always know what they need either. So that's where DevRel gets very painful. Yeah. Actually, that is really, that's a good way. Instead of PR and IR, we went to a whole DevRel instead of DR, I guess. So funny enough, Ray, actually, when you say that, so I'm starting to ideate or prototype a product. I've been doing a lot of different I've built a lot of DevRel programs, obviously. Thank you, Arvin, for following me for so many years. I've had the privilege of being able to build some cool stuff. And so I have sort of this framework and methodology of how I look at DevRel, and I've productized the concept. And so, Ray, coming back around, I was using AI because I'm like, hey, help me. Like, I did sort of a rambling on how I think it could operate. And I was like, help me summarize this. And it actually called it a DRM. So it was a developer relationship manager, I think. So that's actually kind of funny, which it is not going to be called that, but. All right. Anyone else have a burning DevRel question they want to ask before we jump off? All right. Well, I haven't published any more of these that are actually scheduled, but I'm going to do multiples of these per week. I have different clients in different spaces. I think they're all kind of can culminate in different ways, but one of them is in the modern JavaScript space, but their use cases in AI and ML. So I'm just going to drop like one little plug. If you are at all intrigued about the pre-deployment testing of the ML ops infrastructure as it pertains to on-premise deployment and possible robotics, that company is called Fimio. So it's FIMIO.xyz, not Vimeo, but Fimio with an F as in Frank. And then ArcJet is the client, which I am like so nerding out on ArcJet because it's in the tool stack that I understand. It's in modern JavaScript, although I'm not so modern, but I'm definitely more in front end and sort of open source. And so ArcJet, I talked about a couple of times. They are a security as code platform working in modern JavaScript, actually to help decrease the cost of your AI infrastructure by having sort of an open tool or open opportunity that you could use, which is how they relate, which is pretty fun. But then they also obviously modern JavaScript stack, right? New SaaS builds is another use case, e-commerce as well. Yes. Thank you. I honestly am so bad. Maria, that's not you, that's me. I'm good at marketing, but not for myself. So
Can you repeat the last one? The ArcJet?
yeah, so it's ArcJet, and then I'm putting these in the chat actually because that makes more sense. Yes. Dominic, I am here for that kind of stuff. I love that idea. I am going to go find this person, Ellie K. Miller. Okay, very cool. And also fellow woman, which I love. Okay, great. And then did I mention anyone else? I think I potentially talked about this client like very, very minimally. But I talked about it a little bit more when Kevin was here. HarperDB started out as a database platform. Now they're an infrastructure platform where they focus on-prem also, which is kind of fun and interesting. Definitely got some niches going here. But the on-prem is interesting because it's like sort of all the infrastructure, right? And so I think there's kind of something fun there in that regard. And they were a client many, many years ago when they were early stage. And now they have re-engaged again now that they're growing. So, which I will tell you, there was actually a very, very fun conversation that happened there. I got to talk to their developer advocate that's on their team. And he's like, when I came in here, it was so interesting. He's like, DevRel is usually so all over the place and unfocused. And he's like, I came in here and he's like, DevRel was like crystal clear and really well defined. He's like, it's such a breath of fresh air. And I was like, oh, yes. it was just a beautiful sort of testimony, because I was able to work with them early on and really help guide them in the way that, like Arvind, you just asked, right? Of DevRel isn't everything for everyone, and every, objective the company has. It has a very clear objective. And if we can put them on that clear objective, they can be unstoppable. And I feel like that's where DevRel can be so amazing, if given the space to do so. Yeah. How can one get entry level roles in as DevRel and AI and ML? I mean, you can come work with me. I have not necessarily put this into play yet or sort of released this, but how I engage with my clients, and I've started my business like 7 or 8 months ago now. So I'm evolving and growing and shifting, and everything changes, obviously. But I have realized that how my business needs to operate is I need to have clients that come in. I need to help them plan their DevRel, understand that problem fit that we talked about. That's what I call it, is a problem fit. What that pain point is. And then from there, there's obviously all these objectives we want to get done, right? Sometimes it's like, hey, we have to improve. Maybe there isn't a support channel, right? And so we're going to build a support channel, or maybe there's the docs are lacking in a certain area. One of my clients, I finished the sort of docs and the beginning steps. And when I got to the end, I was just done. I just kind of got dropped out of it. And I was like, I have no ideas. I have no aha moment. I have nothing I want to build. And so coming back to that was like, enabling a playground to be able to play and understand how the tool can be used. So long story short, as I'm building this out, I'm starting to realize I need developers who are not in DevRel to actually come and serve my clients. Because like Arvind, for example, he could have came in and helped me with this client, with the feedback and understanding the developer workflow. And then I have other things that I do where we will do different feedback sessions where I'll have different people go and like record the product and what they think of the product. And then I provide that to my client so that they have just very raw feedback on what they can improve in their developer experience. So Arvind, it's great to hear that too. I'm realizing there's a lot of folks like Peter and Arvind and others, right, that are like, I want to at least understand it, or I want some skills around it, or I want some education, or they just really like new, cool dev tools like me. And so I'm starting to shift over to where that actually is going to be different sort of bounties, which is a part of my product, where you'll actually be able to say, hey, I would love to do one of those bounties. I'll go do the product feedback for an ML ops deployment tool. So, okay, very cool. I love that. Please do. You can actually message me in this community platform. So if you go to like people or members and you want to go track me down, you should be able to send me a message. I'm also Tessa at built4.dev. So the primary domain, I'm just Tessa at. I love that. See, this is now I need to build my thing, because the whole solution of it is to be able to have these bounties so that folks can be like, yes, I want to do that. Because I think at the end of the day, right, if I can be like, hey, I need a blog post on, some cool AI thing, and I'm not the person to do it, why should I be learning how to do it when I can bring the right person in? So I know I do need to build the thing. Does anyone else want to like add any commentary or anything? I know we're at time, but feel free to jump in if you want to say bye or summaries or, any last thoughts. Okay. Well,
Yes.
yeah.
I will look into Architect and Harper BB, and will share all my experimental stuff with you in the next session.
Love that. If you do want to look at ArcJet in a really cool way, there's a project called NextForge that it's actually integrated into. Hold on, I'm going to throw this in the chat really quick and then we can leave. That actually is like a start state for building a new SaaS, and it's like natively integrated into that. It is pretty sweet. So anyone who likes to build or do cool stuff, you might also really like that start state, because it helps you essentially build a SaaS product from the ground up with a really beautiful foundation.
Yeah, I will take a look. Because anytime I take a look, I create a MVP product on my own. That's how I understand what is the pain points.
Yep. You and me both. I follow the same process. Now I don't have as much time to be a nerdy dev like I used to be able to do, though, which is a bummer. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a fabulous rest of their day. I will keep adding events in here. I am horrible at marketing them, honestly. So if you don't follow me on social, just follow me on socials. I will always post it on there, and I'll get better at that. I'm actually going to create that system so y'all will get a notification when I got stuff to do. So keep following me. It is coming. Bye, everyone. Have a fabulous rest of your day.